Oh, interesting developments today. July 31st, 2015 means only one thing in the mind of baseball fans and enthusiasts. It's the trade deadline in baseball. Who's going to be waving the pennant, going for the pennant flag, and who's waving in the white flag for giving up? Of course, you've heard about David Price and Johnny Cueto. Now Cole Hamels. We're going to be on the air with you for today for 2 hours to break down this big trade deadline special. I can't wait for you guys to come along with me and see what's going to happen in these next 2 hours. The trade deadline ends at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 o'clock West Coast Pacific Time. And we're going to be here with you from 2 o'clock, 11 a.m. Pacific to 1 p.m. Pacific, right here on your exclusive home for me, a production of ClayFan23. After all, we're live on the air, and this is all Andy Alfred.
I've been listening to you, watching the same games you've been watching, but I have the nerve to say what's on my mind. It's time to listen. It's time to learn. It's time for all Andy Alfred.
Whoa, we're live! And it starts now!
Go get him, Tiger. Wow.
We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em, Tiger. World Series bound and picking up steam. Go get 'em, Tiger. There'll be joy in Tiger Town. We'll sing you songs with the Bengals bring the pennant home where it belongs. We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em. Detroit Tigers. Go get 'em, Tigers.
Woo! It was a close one last night at Camden Yards. The Tigers almost blowing it, but getting a victory in the end.
We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em. Detroit Tigers. Go get 'em, Tigers.
Oh, go get 'em, Tigers! Of course, the Indians were a loser to Oakland, winner last night in Oakland. Can't play the music today because, of course, it's trade deadline day. A lot of moves going on as well, too, as the Indians getting a much-needed win over the Oakland Athletics. And we'll recap the week, the Thursday night edition of sports as well, too, and give you the latest happenings right now in the trade deadline. Also going to talk a little bit about the International League Baseball season as well, too, and also dive into the NHL free agency and dive into the Big Ten media polling. And I love you guys, and welcome to this live edition of All Andy Alfred, right here on your exclusive home for me, a production of ClayFan23. I am your host, Andy Alfred, welcoming you into the Man Cave Studios and welcoming you into another edition of All Andy Alfred today on this, the 31st of July, 2015. I am your host, Andy Alfred. You can be a part of the show today. It is at All Andy Alfred on Twitter, at ALLANDYALFRED. Be a part of the show and use the hashtag part of the program. If you have any questions or concerns, or you want to voice your opinion about some of these trades happening today, we'll dive into that. You can tweet the show on Twitter. You can watch us right now on youtube.com/ClayFan23 and also on the Google Plus Hangout today. And we are live here in the Man Cave Studios in East Toledo, Ohio. It is truly a pleasure to be with you here on the program today. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now, the latest coming into today's trade deadline. It is at 4 o'clock today Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific Time, as the MLB trade deadline is arriving. And we're getting in a lot of trades and a lot of moves happening today. We're going to start off with the first one that was made this early morning at around 12:13 this morning. As we get dive into this. Let me pull it right all up here. 12:25 this morning, the San Francisco Giants picked up starting pitcher from the Cincinnati Reds, Mike Leake, and for a pair of prospects, pitcher Kenny Morale, who will be viewed as one of the best pitching prospects in the Giants system, and infielder Adam Duvall from the San Francisco Giants in exchange for Mike Leake. Mike Leake, now a San Francisco Giant. The Baltimore Orioles are talking and getting both Brewers outfielder Gerardo Parra and outfielder from the Philadelphia Phillies, Ben Revere, and sending Tommy Hunter to the Chicago Cubs. That was what Ken Rosenthal was reporting this morning around 8:30 this morning. But the Cubs are still in talks, to get Carlos Carrasco from the Cleveland Indians. That was this morning as well, too. But here are some updates right now. The Cubs have acquired Dan Herron, right-handed pitcher from the Miami Marlins. From the Miami Herald is reporting as that the Cubs, the Padres, and the Red Sox are discussing a 3-team trade right now as we're getting closer and closer to the end of this trade deadline, of course. Big one is Kevin Jepsen, was reported by Ken Rosenthal from MLB Network and Fox. He's reporting that Kevin Jepsen is going now to the Minnesota Twins. Looking at some of his tweets as well, too. Dan Herron from the Marlins to the Cubs. Brewers have claimed Person Gallman on waivers from the L.A. Dodgers as well, too. The Toronto Blue Jays have acquired right-handed pitcher Mark Lowe from the Seattle Mariners in exchange for Nick Wells, Jacob Bretz, and Rob Rossman. So that is a trade going down right now. That was the trade going down right now. The Blue Jays picking up Mark Lowe. Also, the New York Yankees, are in talks with San Diego Padres for Craig Kimbrel. But those discussions have broken down and not have been retrieved yesterday. The Miami Marlins reliever Curtis Caps are another option for the New York Yankees, according to Ken Rosenthal. The Texas Rangers have officially acquired Cole Hamels in the deadline blockbuster from the Philadelphia Phillies. Aroldis Chapman is becoming a big piece right now. He is becoming a big piece for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're not going to acquire Aroldis Chapman because the Reds want so much right now. Jonathan Broxton is now a St. Louis Cardinal from the Milwaukee Brewers. The Baltimore Orioles have placed the deal with outfielder for the Milwaukee Brewers, Gerardo Parra. That was announced by CBS Sports. Tyler Ross is in talks right now with the Boston Red Sox. He is with the San Diego Padres. That's going to be a move done there, looks like right there. But the big stories, of course, have happened in the last couple of days. Johnny Cueto to the Kansas City Royals, as well as David Price from the Detroit Tigers being on the move to Toronto. And he's been having some car trouble. He had some car trouble during an interview with the Dan Patrick Show, and the Bell Tire crew came out and helped him fix up his car. He's towing his car as we speak. The Astros are now in discussion now with Aroldis Chapman, possibly Aroldis Chapman going to the Houston Astros right now. And the Mets are discussing with the Detroit Tigers and Dave Dombrowski for Yoenis Cespedes. Also, the Angels have discussed it as well, too. The Mets are looking to get multiple outfield bats, while the Pirates are still looking for platoon fourth outfielders. That is according to John Morosi from MLB. So, a lot of trade deadlines. We're going to keep you informed here on this 2-hour edition of All Andy Alfred of any trade developments or any pickups going on right now as we speak. So let's get into what happened last night on the diamond first and foremost. And let's talk a little bit about the Tigers. And Yoenis Cespedes, speaking of Yoenis Cespedes, coming out and having a breakout game last night as the Tigers cruise almost blowing the lead, cruising to a 9-8 victory over the Baltimore Orioles. For the Tigers, he's now 10-6 with a 4.55 ERA. Gonzalez gets the loss. He goes to 9-7 with a 4.28 ERA. For Simon in the game, great outing for him. He went 5 2/3, 2 hits, 4 runs. Those 4 runs were earned. 3 walks, 1 strikeout, and 2 home runs he gave up to Andrew Jones and Chris Davis. Yoenis Cespedes, his 18th home run of the year, came off of Gomez, who was out there off of Bud Norris. Gomez 3 1/3, 10 hits, 5 runs. All 5 were earned, 1 walk and 1 strikeout. Bud Norris 2 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs. Those 4 runs were earned, 2 walks and 2 strikeouts. The 1 home run he gave up to Yoenis Cespedes. Time of the game last night at Camden Yards, 3 hours and 36 minutes, 30,136 in attendance for the game last night at Camden Yards. And Yoenis Cespedes, a great outing for him. He had a total of 5 plate appearances, going a total of 3 for 5 in the game last night for the Detroit Tigers, helping his draft stock out as well too. As you're wondering why I'm panning over to the left, we have the television set up as well too to take a look and get the confirmed results of what's happening on Twitter. So if you see me during this 2-hour special, go look towards the television. You're seeing it's a picture of MLB tonight and our show going on as we speak as well too. So let's talk a little bit about the Indians as well, as we're doing this program live right here. The Indians a much needed victory as they continue the winning streak, getting their second win of the week as they beat the Oakland Athletics 3-1. Carlos Carrasco, who's in talks still with the Chicago Cubs right now, went a complete game, 9 innings, 2 hits, 1 run. That run was earned, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts overall. He gets the win. He goes to 11-8 with a 4.03 ERA. Bassett gets the loss as Oakland loses 3-1. Bassett now 0-4 with a 3.10 ERA. He went 7 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs. Those 3 runs were earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. The 1 home run he gave up to Carlos Santana, his 12th of the season. Time of the game, 2 hours and 15 minutes, 13,173 in attendance at the Oco Coliseum in beautiful Oakland, California. Looking at some other scores from around the league yesterday, the Padres were winner 8-7 over the New York Mets. Washington a 1-0 win over the Miami Marlins. Atlanta loses to Philadelphia 4-1. Kansas City getting rocked by the Toronto Blue Jays 5-2. It was not a sweep happening at Fenway Park for the White Sox as Chris Sale gets rocked in the game, giving up 12 hits in the game. His worst outing this year. He gets the loss. He goes to 9-6 with a 3.20 ERA. Wright gets the win. He goes to 4-4 with a 4.53 ERA as the White Sox lose to the Red Sox 8-2. Abreu, his 17th, and Castillo, his 2nd home run of the year. For the Redlegs, the Cincinnati Reds, a big win last night over the Pittsburgh Pirates, 15-5. Holmberg gets the win. He goes to 1-0 with a 3 ERA. Burnett gets the loss. He goes to 8-5 with a 3.06 ERA. Pedro Alvarez homered his 15th. Bird his 17th for Cincinnati, and 2 home runs for Brandon Phillips, his 6th and 7th of the year. Colorado was a winner-loser last night to St. Louis 9-8. The Texas Rangers were a winner over the New York Yankees 7-6. The Cubbies a 5-2 victory over the Milwaukee Brew Crews. Soriano gets the win. He goes to 2-0 with a 6.35 ERA. Smith gets the loss. He goes to 4-2 with a 2.58 ERA. Rondon gets to save his 14th of the year for the Cubs. Anthony Rizzo, his 18th home run of the year. How about this? The Houston Astros sweeping the LA Angels of Anaheim 3-0 last night off of a walk-off win by Castillo in the 9th. Gregerson gets the win. He goes to 4-1 with a 3.29 ERA. Alvarez gets the loss. goes to 2-2 with a 3.64 ERA. I think Houston is the real deal. And all these moves that they're making so far are proving that this team is for real. They're going to go for it. It's plain and simple. They're going for broke. And I think they're going to get it. I really think they're going to get it. They're going to win this West. They're not playing for a wild card spot. They're playing to win the West. To win the West. Seattle was a loser to Minnesota last night, 9-5. Games going forward into tonight's play. Let's preview the games. Atlanta's in Philadelphia. That's Perez versus McCann. 7:05 start time for that one. 7:07 start time. It will be the first start for Johnny Cueto in Kansas as a Kansas City Royal. He's 7-6 with a 2.62 ERA. Hutcherson will start for Toronto. He's 9-2 with a 5.42 ERA. Locke will start for Pittsburgh. He's 5-6 with a 4.15 ERA as he'll take on the Reds, who will send out Londozzi out on the mound, who is 3-5 with a 4.56 ERA. It will be San Diego taking on Miami tonight at 7:10. The Rays are in Boston. That's Ramirez versus Rodriguez. Washington is in New York. It'll be Gonzalez versus Harvey. In that affair, that game you can watch on MLB Network starting at 7:05. 8:05 tonight, it'll be the Texas Rangers hosting the San Francisco Giants. 8:10 sees Arizona taking on Houston. It's De La Rosa versus Feldman. 8:10, the Cubs are in Milwaukee. It's Hamill versus Jugman. 8:10 sees the New York Yankees taking on the Chicago White Sox. It will be Daldy, 10-2 with a 4.27 ERA versus Rondon, who is 4-3 with a 4.09 ERA. 8:10 start time for that one. Minnesota will be taking on Seattle. It'll be Walker versus Malone. In that affair, Colorado takes on St. Louis. 8:15 start time. 10:10. It will be the Angels of Anaheim taking on the LA Dodgers. In that affair tonight, 10:10. That'll be Santiago versus Kershaw. In that affair. So let's preview the weekend for the Tigers. The Tigers will throw out Buck Farmer on the hill. He is 0-2 with a 9.22 ERA. He'll take on Bruce Chet for the Baltimore Orioles, who's 5-6 with a 2.88 ERA. 7:05 start time. You can watch that game on NESN, Baltimore, as well as on Fox Sports Detroit. And game on Saturday sees the Tigers having Anibal Sanchez on the hill, 10-8 with a 4.61 ERA. 7:05 start time for that one. It'll be Guzman for Baltimore, who's 1-2 with a 4.20 ERA. 7:05 start time for that one. And the concluding game on Sunday sees the Tigers throwing out Bud Norris, making his first start with the Detroit Tigers. 1:35 start time for that one. He is 1-1 with a 3.86 ERA. He'll take on who is 8-6 with a 3.73 ERA. 1:35 start time for those games. Looking at Friday for the Cleveland Indians, the Indians continue the road trip as they'll take on the Oakland Athletics. 9:35 start time tonight. It will be Danny Salazar, 8-6 with a 3.72 ERA versus Graveman for Oakland, who is 6-7, with a 4.13 ERA. On Saturday, another late game for the Indians. 9:05 start time will be Cody Anderson, who is 2-2 with a 3.26 ERA, taking on Brooks, who has no record of yet, but his ERA is a 6.23 ERA. The concluding game on Sunday at 4:05, it will be Trevor Bauer, 8-8 with a 4.13 ERA, taking on Sonny Gray, who is 11-4 with a 2.16 ERA. Those games you can watch on Fox Sports out in Oakland or on Fox Sports Time, Ohio. Other notable games to look out for this weekend, of course, Kansas City is in Toronto on Saturday. That's an afternoon game. That'll be on MLB Network. They will also be on at 8:05. It will be San Francisco taking on Texas in the game on MLB Network. On Sunday Night Baseball this week, it will be the Washington Nationals taking on the Mets. It'll be Zimmerman versus Syndergaard on Sunday, 8:08 start time for that one. After this weekend's series in both in Cleveland for the Indians in Oakland. The Indians will continue to hit the road. They'll take on the Angels of Anaheim, and the Tigers will have a day off on Monday, get back into action on Tuesday as they will take on back at home against the Kansas City Royals. They will not see Johnny Cueto in this next homestand, hopefully. As we're during the big MLB trade deadline spectacular here on All Andy Alfred today. We're getting you an update right now. Ben Revere has been signed, and that is now coming across the wire right now, according to some reports. It's all uploaded here for you guys. Ben Revere has been signed by the Toronto Blue Jays from the Phillies, reports from MLB.com. Todd Zawalczyk, the clubs have not confirmed so far. Looking at some of the other notable trades there, that is the most recent trade has been announced. I expect to see the Tigers move Cespedes today. I think they could move Kinsler. It's possible. See if they can do that. A lot of teams like the Mets need a bat. The Angels need a bat as well too. But it will be interesting. Be interesting to see what comes around here on the trade deadline, the 31st of July, 2015. As the summer winds are blowing in, changing the dynamics of Major League Baseball. Looking at the standings going into tonight's play, Kansas City still holding top in the best record in the American League at 61-40. Minnesota 53-48, 8 games out of first place. Detroit now in third place with a record of 50-52, 11.5 games out of first place, 3.5 out of a wild card spot. The White Sox are 49-51, 11.5 games out. They're 3.5 games out of a wild card spot. And the Indians are in last place at 47-54. 14 games out of first place, 6 games out of a wild card position. Looking at the AL East, the Yankees are in top at 57-44. Baltimore 51-50, 6 games out of first place, 2 games out of a wild card. Toronto 52-51, 6 games out, 2 games out of a wild card. Tampa Bay 51-52, 7 games out of a wild card. 7 games out of first place, 3 games out of a wild card. Boston 45-58. 13 games out of first place, 9 out of a wild card position. With the Houston Astros' big win and sweep over the LA Angels, they now hold the lead in the West at 58-45. The Angels of Anaheim 2 games up in the wild card position at 55-46, 2 games out of first place. Texas is 49-52, 8 games out of first place, 4 games out of a wild card. Seattle 46-57, 12 games out of first place, 8 out of a wild card. Oakland 45-58. 13 games out of first place, 9 games out of a wild card position. On MLB Network right now, they're showing Cole Hamels talking to the media as the Rangers have completed the trade. We mentioned that at the top of the program. Washington in the National League, the best record in all of baseball is in Missouri. Besides Kansas City, it is St. Louis at 65-37 in the Central. Pittsburgh is in second place at 59-42, 5.5 games out of first place, 3 games up in the wild card position. The Cubs are 2 games out of a wild card position at 54-47, 10.5 games out of first place. The Red Legs are 46-54, 18 games out of first place, 9.5 out of a wild card position. The Milwaukee Brewers are 44-59, 21.5 games out, 13 games of a wild card position. Looking at the rest of the National League, the Washington Nationals holding a 3-game lead over the New York Metropolitans. The Nats are 54-46. The Mets are 52-50, 3 games out, 4.5 out of a wild card position. Atlanta 9 games out of first place, 46-56, 10.5 out of a wild card out of first place at 42-60. The Philadelphia Phillies have not broken the 40-win plateau yet. They're 39-64, 16 games out of first place, 18 out of a wild card position. And in the West, to wrap it all up, the LA Dodgers are at 57-45. The Giants are only a half a game out of first place at 56-45, holding the second wild card position right now. Arizona is 49-51, 7 games out of first place, 6.5 out of a wild card position. San Diego 49-53, 8 games out of first place, 7.5 out of a wild card position. Colorado in last place at 43-57, 13 games out of a first place, 12.5 out of a wild card position. So those are your updated standings going forward into today. The postseason probabilities look like this. If the playoffs started today, this is what it would look like. It would be, looking at it right now, let's see here. It looks like the probables that the Yankees would make it, it would be, looking at it, it would be the Yankees taking on the worst record of all the 3 teams in the American League. Kansas City would get the #1 overall, but they would have to play the winner of the wild card game, which would be either between Minnesota and the Angels of Anaheim. I would say it would probably be the Angels winning that one. The Angels would take on Kansas City. The Yankees would take on Houston. It's a great matchup right there. Looking at the National League, it would be the St. Louis Cardinals playing the winner of the Pittsburgh-San Francisco wild card game. I give the edge to Pittsburgh in that one. And they would play, it would be St. Louis versus Pittsburgh. Washington would take on the Dodgers in that affair if the playoffs started today. So, no updates as of yet. Here at 2:30 on the East Coast, 11:30 on the West Coast, as you're watching All Andy Alfred right here on a live edition of the program. As I had something in my eye right there, it just chased me all of a sudden. Right here on your exclusive home for me, a production of Clay Fan 23. I am your host, Andy Alfred, being with you here for another hour and a half as we talk about the MLB trade deadline. And I think, as I readjust myself here in my chair, excuse me. There we are. I think the possibilities of these teams blowing everything up is possible. I think San Diego is one of them. If the Kimbrel trade does go down, then I think it would be a big move for San Diego, who had all this money and all this payroll, to go in and just fail. Absolutely fail. It's just sad to see this. And looking at the record again, I mean, it's just proving that that San Diego and the high payroll that they went after, and they went after all those players, is not succeeding. They're 49-53, 8 games out of first place. They just won the other night against the Mets. And the Mets are a good team. The Mets are a really good team this year. And the rotation that they are getting out of Syndergaard and DeGrom and Cologne, and it's proving that the Mets are an elite club with the Yankees. Could we have 2 postseason teams in the metropolitan New York area? It's possible. It's absolutely possible. But we shall see. We'll keep you posted so far. Of course, the Cole Hamels deal is being played out. That's the name as it goes on. Ken Rosenthal is just reporting 9 seconds ago. The Padres trade candidates filing into Marlins Park, preparing for the game they may never play. Padres are playing the Marlins this evening at Marlins Park. Other news and notes going on as well too. We're getting from Ken Rosenthal as well as John Morosi for updated thing. Minnesota Twins, like I mentioned, with was acquired Kevin Jepson from the Tampa Bay Rays. Dan Herron bringing up with the Chicago signing with the Chicago Cubs from the Miami Marlins. And the Kremble drill is broke down. Let's look at some of the other news and notes from this trade deadline so far. Of course, if you've seen it, the Flores weeping on the field incident on Wednesday was a big move. Looking at some of it, the Matt Latos pickup from the Dodgers, from an infielder Mike Rossi from the Marlins, in exchange for minor leaguers. What's a big story as well too? And looking at other things, David Murphy being signed by the LA Angels in exchange for AA shortstop Eric Stevenson. That was a big move. Jonathan Papelbon going to the Washington Nationals. Ben Zobrist being acquired from the Oakland A's to the Kansas City Royals. Troy Tulowitzki going to the Blue Jays. Of course, that was big news as well too. Shane Victorino getting picked up by the Angels of Anaheim. Tyler Clippard now with the Mets. It's we're getting more and more information as it comes in, and we're making sure we get the process down from it. And we shall see. I'm going to drop this down really quick. And you can still hear me. I can hear you as well, too, as you're watching all Andy Alfred right here on ClayFan23, presented by carrythefifthline.tumblr.com. For all your Blue Jacket information needs, visit carrythefifthline.tumblr.com for all your Blue Jacket pictures as well as information regarding the fan side of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's talk a little bit about the Mud Hens going forward into tonight's play. They are now hitting the road. They'll start up a 3-game series with the Louisville Bats before returning home to take on the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. And if you haven't noticed, Lehigh Valley is with the top farm team of the Philadelphia Phillies. They're all named the Iron Pigs. The Mud Hens are Mud Hens, so they're doing the Eggs and Bacon series. We'll talk a little bit about that going forward. But let's look at some scores from last night around the International League. Of course, the Clippers were a loser last night to the Indianapolis 2-1. And, of course, Louisville was in action against Charlotte last night as well. And we're getting the final notes from the trade, by the way, before we continue on. The Twins acquire Kevin Jepson for minor league right-handed pitcher Chin Woo-hoo and Alexei Tap-Up. That's final. That's the finalization of that trade. The Indianapolis Indians a 2-1 victor over the Columbus Clippers. Buchanan gets the win. Tomlin gets the loss. Norfolk a 6-1 win over Pawtucket yesterday afternoon. In extra innings, the Buffalo Bison losing to the Syracuse Chiefs 5-4. Charlotte loses to Louisville 3-2. And the Rail Riders of Scranton-Wilkes-Barre getting a 3-2 win over the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. So tonight, games in the International League as of note. To go forward, it will be Columbus in Scranton tonight. Gwinnett is on the road to take on Durham. Norfolk hosting Lehigh Valley. Pawtucket's in Buffalo. Rochester hosting the Syracuse Chiefs. Charlotte is in Indianapolis this evening. It's Penny versus Volstead. And Toledo tonight will take on the Louisville Bats. And looking at the rotation for the Mud Hens tonight, here is what the rotation will look like for the weekend in Louisville at Louisville Slugger Park. Starting tonight, 7:05 start time. You can listen to that game on 1230 WCWA. It will be Kyle Ryan, who is 0-8 with a 4.86 ERA. Roach will start for Louisville. He is 1-0 with a 5.91 ERA. Saturday, we'll see Thad Weber on the hill, 6-7 with a 3.91 ERA, taking on Bushman, who is 7-9 with a 4.36 ERA. 6:05 start time for that one. To include a game on Sunday, it will be, pull this up here, Thad Weber on Saturday. Sunday, must have a misprint on here. Yep, they must have a misprint. It will be Mudhens. I'm not yet named a star. Stevenson will start for Louisville. He's 4-0 with a 2.40 ERA. Mudhens, I'm not yet named a starter for that one. And then the Mudhens return home to take on the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs in a 4-game series starting Monday night at 7 o'clock. Looking at the standings going into tonight's play in the International League, the Mudhens still in last place at 45-60, 14.5 games out of first place. They're 25 games from elimination. Louisville is 52-55, 8.5 games out of first place. Columbus is 59-47, 1 game out of first place. Indianapolis 60-46 in first place. Norfolk holding the best record overall at 61-43 in the IL South. For the worst records right now, Syracuse at 42-65, Pawtucket at 42-63. Then the Mudhens are 45-60 overall. Then you have Lehigh Valley, who is 47-59. Then after that, you have to go to 52-55. It's being Louisville Bats. The Mudhens and Louisville in the same spectrum in the standings. Not doing very well, not doing pretty good as well, too. And we'll see what happens with that. On Monday's edition of All Andy Alfred, a taped edition of Monday's program. We'll be on the air on Monday. We'll talk a little bit about, we'll recap the weekend that was in sports, as well as previewing the week that is for the Tigers, the Indians, and the Mudhens, as well as giving you top 5 and bottom 5 for the Mudhens on a Monday, presented by Dr. Zuhari in Fisher's office. Excuse me as I take a sip of water. Oh, no news to report yet. Must be making a lot of moves as we speak. So, if you're tuning in for the first time ever to this program, by the way, thank you for tuning in today. You'll be a part of the show, first and foremost. You can join the program on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred. And we don't just talk baseball. We talk hockey. We talk football. We talk basketball. And the other trade moves is going on and free agent pickups going on. It's happening in the NHL. The NHL free agency is in full swing as we're looking now at the We're going to look at the NHL free agency going on right now as we speak. We're in Ohio, so the Jackets, the Columbus Blue Jackets, are one of the biggest things that we got. And looking at some of the Jackets signings that we need to grab, first and foremost, Ryan Craig is a unrestricted free agent. Jack Skilly is an unrestricted free agent. Frederick St. Denis as well, too. I think we can dump Craig and Denis. That's a pretty good thing. Will Weber, we can re-up Will Weber for a good price. But one player that we haven't re-signed yet is Jack Skilly. Very key player. He should be a 2-way contract for 1 year. Give him the option for that. Unrestricted free agent Thomas Larkin and Dana Tyrell for them. Looking at some of the unrestricted free agents happening, news and notes. Matt Carey from the Chicago Blackhawks is available. Ludwig Carlson is available too. Would be a great pickup for him, for us. Maxi Callant is also a pickup as well too. You can also pick up, you can go out and get a player such as David Shields or Eric Codell would be a good pickup too. And yeah, I mean, it's just plain and simple. The Jackets just need to go get some help. For the Red Wings have some signings they need to do. Dan Cleary's up in free agency right now. I would want Dan Cleary. I would sign him to at least a 1 or 2, 1 year with an option for 2 years for him. He is getting up in age a little bit. Eric Cole, Jonas Gustafsson, Mark Zilicki is available as well too. But free agent signing so far. none to report really since the signing was on Tuesday. We actually have one signing today. It was Alex Galchenyuk. Galchenyuk from the Montreal Canadiens is going to be with the Canadiens this year as he re-signs with the Canadiens this season. Other news of note in the NHL too, besides the Jakub Voracek trade Jakub Voracek re-upping. The NHL announces their 30-30 schedule for August going forward. And looking at some of the teams, the Jackets will be the 8th of August. They'll be breaking down every team. It starts on Saturday with the Edmonton Oilers, basically going in the draft pick order, basically. Detroit will be on the 19th. The Chicago Blackhawks are the 30th as well, too. Pittsburgh is the 17th. You can go on NHL.com to find your team as the NHL season is just around the corner. And like it says behind me, we are the 5th line. Is it October yet? I sure hope it is. Looking at some ECHL news and note, Kyle Kramer signs with the South Carolina Stingrays. The Tulsa Oilers has signed an affiliation with the Winnipeg Jets, and the HL Manitoba Moose. Those are the only 2 ECHL news and notes. So let's talk a little bit about some college football, shall we? As today is the second day of media day coverage in the Big Ten. Hey, and the Ohio State Buckeyes have been picked to win it all in the Big Ten. Yes, that's the Ohio State University and the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes have been chosen by Ohio State, obviously the favorite to repeat as Big Ten football champions this year. That's the minimum expectation for the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Ezekiel Elliott was voted preseason offensive player of the year. Joey Boltzmann was voted preseason defensive player of the year. Ohio State with 40 first-place ballots, 280 votes overall. Michigan State finishing second with 240. Penn State with 186.5. Michigan finishing fourth with 163.5. Maryland finishing with fifth with 95 votes in the East. Rutgers 78 and Indiana with 76. In the West, Wisconsin had 32 first-place votes. Nebraska with 5 with 231.5 votes overall. Minnesota finishing third with 3 first-place votes at 197. Iowa 185.5 votes. Northwestern 125. Illinois 77 and Purdue 59. They predicted that Ohio State could beat Wisconsin in the national championship. 32% of the vote, 32 votes went to Ohio State beating Wisconsin. 5 votes went to Ohio State beating Nebraska. 3 votes went to Minnesota losing to Ohio State, and the Big Ten champion being the Ohio State Buckeyes. And looking at their schedule, we're going to dive into that a little bit more as we get closer and closer to the season starting. Virginia Tech, they open up Virginia Tech on the 7th of September. Then they host Hawaii, host Northern Illinois, host Western Michigan, and is at Indiana before they get deeper into the Big Ten schedule versus at home at Maryland, at home to Penn State, and on the road to Rutgers for hosting Minnesota. The final 3 games for them is going to be difficult. At Illinois, we don't know what the Illini team is going to look like this year. Even though they are picked by the media to finish 6th overall. They can always surprise you. But the number 5 ranked Michigan State Spartans will be on the 21st of November, and of course the 28th of November sees them at the Big House in Michigan. And everybody's been talking about this matchup for a long time now, ever since Jim Harbaugh was signed by the Michigan Wolverines, that Michigan versus Ohio State, Harbaugh versus Meyer, would be the dream matchup that a lot of people want to see. I can see that. I can see that going forward. And it'd be interesting. It will be interesting. Looking at most of, we're going to, like I said, going forward and on these shows, we're going to dive more into college football spectrum. Once we get more in depth and closer to the season, we are all less than 4 or 5 weeks away from the start of college football. 4 to 5 weeks to the start of college football. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. But we got the whole month of August before we get into September, which is the start of college football season. Unbelievable. My mind is being blown already. It'll be interesting. And we'll preview on this show. We'll preview the Big Ten. We'll talk about the big market teams as well as Big 12, as well as Conference USA and the SEC and the Pac-12. We'll talk about those teams. We'll talk about the Mid-American Conference. We're in the Mid-American Conference today. By the way, I'm wearing the orange today for Falcon Friday for the Bowling Green State University Falcons. But yeah, it's pretty much most of we'll talk about that once we get closer and closer to the start of the season, as well as previewing the NHL season, as well to NBA season with the Cavs, of course. Cavs are coming off of a slumpy year. Can they be healthy? Can a healthy LeBron help them out? And a healthy Kyrie and a healthy Moskov? We'll see. We'll see what happens. You're watching All Andy Alfred right here on your exclusive home for me, a production of Clayfan23. I am your host, Andy Alfred, coming to you from the beautiful Man Cave Studios in East Toledo, Ohio. As we're doing this MLB trade deadline spectacular here. We're going to be with you here for just a few more minutes. We're going to stay with you until 3, and then we will pop in and out once in a while. So, you'll stay with us. You can follow us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred today, at All Andy Alfred for all your trade deadline information and so much more. If anything does major break during this show today or before the trade deadline, Twitter is the best way you're going to see it. Hear my expressions and my opinions as well too. But hey, Blue Jacket ticket plans are available right now by going to NHL.com or bluejackets.nhl.com and clicking on the ticket page. You can get up to $70 in free gas with qualifying plan purchases. Visit the Blue Jackets website for more information as well too. The Blue Jackets getting ready for their season to start off as well. The Mets are making a push now for outfielder Yoenis Cespedes. The Angels are making a push for outfielder Yoenis Cespedes. Who's gonna offer the most to the Tigers this year for this trade? Who is? We shall see. We shall see. And it will be interesting to see what happens going forward into this trade deadline spectacular. As you're watching All Andy Alfred live here, you can be a part of the show, and you can follow the show. It is also on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred on Twitter, or you can, and if you want to be a part of the conversation, you use the hashtag AAA Live as well. On Monday's edition of All Andy Alfred, we'll break down and preview the week that is sports. We'll break down what happened this past weekend for both the Tigers and the Orioles. Against the Orioles, Indians taking on the Oakland Athletics, as well as previewing the ham and egg series between the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs and the Toledo Mud Hens, as well as all the MLB trade moves on Monday's edition of All Andy Alfred. I hope you can join us then. That's going to wrap it up for All Andy Alfred today. Remember, follow us on Twitter for all your updated stats and information as well too. We're gonna be on the air as need be. That's going to wrap it up for our live edition of All Andy Alfred right here on Clay Fan 2-3. Until Monday, go Tigers! Go Tribe! Let's go Hens! And this is October yet, because we are the fifth line. And go Tigers! Go Falcons! It's going to wrap it up for All Andy Alfred today. I hope you enjoyed this program. However you're watching us and wherever you're watching us, thank you for tuning into the program today. And as always, I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together, the game of life. And to the teams behind me and to your team at home as well, too. Victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great evening, everybody. I'll see you on Monday for another edition of All Andy Alfred. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Love you. Talk to you guys and have a great weekend, everybody. See you on Monday.